Greetings, friends, and welcome to today's dose of inspiration. Today I want to talk to you about a big word, a word that most of us really despise, and that is obedience. Now, if you're anything like me, then even just hearing the word can make something inside of you cringe just a little bit, because you know as well as I know that sometimes being in full obedience to God and His Word is quite difficult. There are some challenging things that have been laid out in the scriptures for us to do. Some things that definitely require more of a killing of our flesh than others do. Let's just be honest. Some of the commands in the scripture are quite easy to do, and some things are not so much. That whole love your enemy thing, wow, that's a tough one. And the scriptures are full of commands that God has given us that, in all honesty, are tough to do. But I'm reminded today about the story concerning King Saul when he offered a sacrifice unto God that was not authorized for him to do. Back in that time, the only person who was authorized to give a sacrifice on behalf of the people was the prophet. Saul was the king, not the prophet. One day, Samuel, who was the appointed and anointed prophet of Israel, was a little late in his coming to offer the yearly sacrifice, and because of that, the people began to get fidgety and antsy, and they came to Saul and said, "Listen, you're going to have to offer the sacrifice because Samuel isn't here. The sacrifice has to be made." Well, Saul knew that God had commanded that he not offer the sacrifice, that he instead wait for the prophet to do it. But because Saul loved God as well, because Saul knew that a sacrifice needed to be made, and because Saul was a little afraid of the people, Saul decided to go ahead and make a sacrifice that was not his to make. And when he did, he angered God. The bottom result was God told him through the prophet Samuel, "I much rather have obedience than sacrifice." Wow, can you imagine that? Sacrifice that is expected by God, that He commands, was still not accepted because it wasn't done in obedience. And that brings us to today and to our lives. Is there something that God is speaking to you that you have been hesitant to fulfill? Are you trying to put your own spin on it possibly and try to obey God, but maybe in your own way and in your own timing? Do you know partial obedience isn't obedience at all? God expects us to do things His way and in His timing. But here's the good news. God never expects us to do anything that He doesn't empower us to do. So think about this today as you go through your day. Maybe there is something very important that God has been asking of you. Maybe it's to forgive someone who's hurt you. Maybe it is to love an enemy who has been spiteful towards you. Maybe it's something major like making a move in your life and transferring jobs or moving to a new city. Maybe it's a huge thing that you've been a little hesitant and been dragging your feet on. Ask yourself this. Has He empowered you to do it? And if so, what are you waiting on? God's never going to ask anything of you that He doesn't empower you to do. And I can guarantee you, if you will take a step past that first moment of discomfort, that first moment of fear, that first moment of trepidation, God is going to meet you there, and there is going to be an empowerment that comes upon you. And when you get done, you're going to say, "Whoa, how did I ever accomplish that?" It's because He empowered you to do it. So let me tell you today, stop hesitating. God doesn't want all the sacrifices that you're giving Him in other areas if you're still being disobedient in some area. Get on the ball, trust Him, let Him help you, and begin to step out in obedience today. He'll help you. I want to thank you all so very much for tuning in. Until next time, I pray that you will walk in the favor and blessings of the Lord. See you soon.